Welcome to the part of the series where we are discussing about the growth and success of the cloud industry in India. To talk on this, we have today with us Mr. Mukesh Kumar, who is the head of industry and customer advisory with SAP. He is leading pre-sales function for SAP India with a team of over 60 solution experts. Mukesh, welcome. Great to have you with us.
Nice meeting you, Diksha. Great meeting you.
Same here, okay? Great. Today, we'll be covering three broad things. We'll focus on how do we deliver best-in-class customer experience for customers? How do we enable robust processes across the enterprise value chain, right? So basically being modular, but at the same time integrated. And finally, how can enterprises make data as the foundation for decision-making? So Mukesh, my first question is related to customer experience. What are the most necessary ingredients for a company to excel in cloud when they think about giving a unique experience to their customers? And why do you think these ingredients are essential?
Yeah, Diksha. So providing a superior customer experience, Diksha, we all are aware, right? It's a clearly a differentiation in the marketplace. The companies in B2C segments have always been focusing on it. But we see now clearly this is becoming an area of importance for companies in the B2B segments as well. So while answering the question, I would like to take an example how we really work with a retail company who largely had a physical store present, moved them to online in these times, and really provided a very unique and differentiated customer experience using AR/VR technologies, right? And we did all this on cloud, which means it was done in short time and of course with a very predictable cost, right? So if I were to look at this success story, what are the key ingredients behind this example, right? What are the things which is required by companies to really have this possible? Number one, integrated, automated, and intelligent business processes are foundation to deliver any new business outcome or a model, right? And this will include providing exceptional customer experience as well. You need a platform delivering connected experience covering front office, mid office to back office to all the stakeholders, which is within your organization as beyond your organization as well. And finally, you have to deliver business insights to help make an influence decision in the moment, right? So these ingredients are essential because it requires integrated approach across the organizations. And it also will expect companies to rethink their business processes in the connected world to ensure that they are delivering the best-in-class customer and outcome, right? So if I were to go back to the example which I just mentioned, by enabling this experience, what did we achieve? We ensured best-in-class experience by providing differentiated guided buying experience, personalized recommendations, offers, and all this along with, since we had front office, mid office, and mid office connected, back office connected, we ensured this with faster fulfillment through an agile and robust supply chain. We ensured that we delivered all this with the lowest possible inventory and best profitability, and possibly made these customers for life using new products and services, right? And that is why these ingredients to me are very, very crucial to provide a best-in-class experience in the market.
So basically, you're saying it is important for a company to be integrated or the processes to be integrated. And as far as possible, these processes should be automated. And the foundation layer for any decision making is the ability to analyze data and gain insights from it.
So essentially, not only having a digital channel, but all these ingredients so that you create that best-in-class experience.
Got it. Thank you. Given the pandemic, right, businesses have now had to expand their environment. So in that situation, how do you think companies can balance their growth with the stable infrastructure while at the same time also, delivering business outcomes? How do you balance all these things?
So if I were to articulate my answer, Diksha, see, businesses are hard pressed for time to deliver business outcomes. We are all aware of it, right? and they would expect technology to be an enabler, not necessarily actually a bottleneck, right? And what are our customers doing to thrive in this digital transformation or digital world? They are looking at new business models to grow. I mean, for an example, our customer base, we see in discrete industry, a lot of servitization of the product happening, right? Products moving to services, or they are looking at new ways to engage with the customers. Even conventional companies like metals, right, and mining, they are actually reaching customer directly through the online channel, right, providing that whole experience to them. We are seeing hyper digitalization of processes happening within your organization, beyond your organizations also, be hired to retire, go to see, procure to pay, etc. The digital natives we all know are creating new competitions. And finally, uh, the merger and acquisition. So when you look at all these things, when are putting a lot of pressure, not only on the infra side of the house, we also see it puts a lot of pressure on the underlying application, the architecture, the people, right? You need new skills in this world. Or the processes, you might have to reimagine these processes, or your partner ecosystem, partner strategy, because you might have to create actually a better value chain now, right? Now, if all these pillars have to be responsive, agile, and scale at the right pace, right? And the right cost to really ensure that we are able to support the kind of growth what we are you just mentioned, right? Now, how does one navigate this in this complexity, right? So, number one, all the new initiatives, if you look at it, have to be on the cloud, because you don't want to really put any pressure on the existing architecture or infrastructure or the landscape, right? But also important, according to me, is to build a roadmap to adopt cloud-based application in the core enterprise areas also, right? So having a good cloud transformation strategy which is aligned with your business will not only help you provide the help you with the necessary elasticity of infra while you are growing, but also will help you with the fit to industry best practices and ability to innovate at a right pace, or possibly at a very faster pace, right? The imperative is very clear, that how do you ensure business outcome, how do you use your skills in the right value added task. And we clearly see in this transformation, companies are investing into the new things. They're focusing on new areas like setting up business and innovation COEs. They are looking at partnering with the startup ecosystem, investing into data security and privacy, etc. Right? So essentially, what I want to communicate is that you really have to look at holistically and not looking at only infra side of the house when you are really growing, right? And finally, it might also call for the way you traditionally been measuring IT organization also might have to change. You might have to have a very, very clear business oriented KPIs for them, like time to market or cost to serve or customer NPS, etc. Right? So my submission would be that we don't focus only on the infrastructure, but you look at holistically the entire the gamut, really, to ensure that while businesses are growing, IT is able to provide the necessary impetus to it.
So basically, Mukesh, you're saying that you can't work in silos, and technology teams should work very closely with the business functions right across the entire organization to make things happen.
Oh, absolutely. And the
So,
cloud transformation not only focuses on the infrastructure, but
yes,
must be aligned with your business strategy, so that along with the infrastructure elasticity is very important. But you also need the industry best practice to help you innovate faster, right? And that
basically, so basically, before addressing the customer's requirements, you address your own requirements, make sure that the customer's problems are solved and there's greater customer experience. That would be crucial. Now, keeping, just continuing with this talk on a distributed environment, right? How can enterprises ensure that their network, cloud infrastructure, and data centers are protected, especially when your workspaces are now so distributed?
Sure. Okay, with
So
whatever
what are the security
I have,
best practices? Yeah.
I'll try and answer this with the knowledge, whatever knowledge I have, right? I mean, we all know with flexible work policies, SAP has adopted it. I'm sure most of the organizations are doing in these times. And along with increasing focus on the digitization, the security obviously becomes a very, very important subject, right? And we all know often cybersecurity is as good as the weakest link. An organization must adopt, according to me, all the three pillars of security, which is people, technology, and the processes, right? You have to have a very, very holistic approach. The enterprise will have to support broad range of tools and technologies to support the multi-layered defense, in-depth security to prevent any attacks. And now when you are looking at cloud, right now, I mean, things become even more deeper that there is no boundary now between trust and no trust, right? Absolutely, organization will have to adopt a zero trust approach here. And I mean, what's a zero trust approach, right? It's a security concept where organization should not automatically trust anything, whether it is inside or outside its perimeter, but must verify anything and everything which is trying to connect to a system before granting access, right? And we clearly see that organizations now are putting security as part of it's a part of every aspect, whether it's planning, whether it's build, or it in during the operations, right? So clearly, we see few areas coming where people will have to, organization will have to invest. Organization will have to invest in strong digital identity, logical security, authentication, and authorization technologies, and also will have to protect its critical assets, right? With greater investment on network security, malware detection, cloud security, endpoint security. I can go on, so on and so forth, right? But along with this, I think one will have to have a very, very robust security incidents management system. Now, having done all that, I think, according to me, with whatever technology you bring in, your people are your last line of defense, right? And it's very important that training them, enabling them, make them aware about this security aspect on an ongoing basis. It's very, very important. We need to have a robust learning tool so that they are continuously updated and upgraded to manage this. Is going to be, to me, again, in this situation where we are talking about a distributed working environment, we are talking about more than ever more loads on cloud and very, very hybrid architecture, right? And ever increasing digitalization where you are now expected to connect to your partners, to your employees from anywhere and everywhere. I think this becomes extremely important, is what my view would be, Diksha.
Okay. And what role does a customer play in terms of managing security? Because uh, security is basically a joint responsibility. So any point from a customer angle, what are the best practices that they can follow? Just maybe one or two.
So as I said, now customers are, at least we see our customers are adopting a zero trust approach. And when we look at our portfolio of solution, ever increasing, we are seeing a lot of investment happening on the digital identity, authorization, and authentication technology. And that becomes a very primary conversations in whatever engagement we having with the customer, be it an on-prem cloud or an hybrid environment.
Uh, when we talk about delivering experiences to customers, right, or even achieving the desired business outcome, data becomes the foundation for decision making. So, how can enterprises use the data effectively to make best business practices more efficient, or to make maintenance more responsive, or to increase the life cycle of an asset or a product? So, any thoughts on that, Mukesh? Can you give us some examples?
Okay, let me start off, Diksha, with few examples, which comes to my mind now, where we have seen customer transforming their businesses using data. May not be in the same areas where you've spoken about, but just which comes to my mind as the first thing, right? We have worked with the consumer good industry where we have retransformed their complete process around the trade promotion management. How did we go about doing it? We took the primary and secondary sales data. We use the market intelligence. We use the competitor activities, got them all together and delivered outcomes around what should be the best schemes for them, how they can optimize their spend, right? And how they can then drive supply chain based on the best forecast available, right? So this is one example we delivered in the consumer good industry. Now, if I move to, let's say, a paint company where we help them reimagine the procurement process of commodities. So real-time commodity trends, with the availability of inventory you have, the demand from the customer, really help them taking when they really should buy and what's the best price they should be taking the decisions on. And if I were to move to a completely different industry like an automotive where we help one customer reimagining their quality management process, right? It was a very manual on a hyper automated line where they used to find the faulty parts after the batch has been produced, where we use the line data around the temperature, the images through the IR cameras, and the data coming from our SAP ERP. Really got them all together and created an app which now suggests them what should be the parts they should inspect on, what should be the inspection, really making the process very robust and granular, right? So if I were to really look at these three examples, right? So what is that required for any organization? And there can be many more examples like this, right? And I'm sure there are many customers who works with us have got more examples. So there are essentially four variables we think are important for any organization to become a data superpower, right? Number one, span, which means data from anywhere. You should be able to manage that amount, data of any size, quality, not necessarily that everything will be of the right quality. So any of data of any kind. And finally, the usage, data from anyone, right? And these are the data capabilities according to me needed to deliver value in the business outcome. If any of the variable is zero, the entire equation according to me becomes a zero, right? So if I were to really reiterate broadly, there are two objectives any organization can achieve with their data. They can take decision confidently based on the trusted data, and they can drive continuous business innovation. Now, with the organization having various various data assets, current landscape, how they really go about doing this, right? So, and achieve these two imperative, which I just mentioned, the confident decision makings and drive continuous business innovation. So both these will require bringing their data assets into a common data foundation, which will enable organization to bring in process efficiency, compliance, drive real-time intelligence like customer churn, predictive customer lifetime value, and also enable organization to create new revenue streams like performance-based contracting or a product as a service, right? Which requires reimagining your processes completely based on the data, right? And SAP being in the, one of the leading providers of the solution in this space, our point of view, how we deliver with some of the design principles in the cloud, very clearly we have one common domain across all our applications. We have embedded analytics and intelligence across our suite. And finally, we provide a strong security and identity management along with a consistent UX, right? To ensure that the organization not only becomes data-driven, but it becomes a data-driven at a much faster pace and a very, very predictable cost, which is, again, very important in the cloud world. I hope I could answer the question, Diksha.
No, absolutely. And one of the very interesting trends that we are seeing is around the API economy, right? And that has enabled a lot of new business opportunities, both on the tech side and also on the customer side. So I have a question around that, Mukesh, is everyone talks about the need to redefine the role of IT and also increase the speed of innovation. So how will this API economy contribute to that, and how will it help ignite a cultural shift in businesses?
Too many questions, so let me try and...
Sure.
Okay, so first, let me start with how API economy impacting our customer businesses, right? So broadly, to me, there are two areas. APIs will enable companies to more easily build product and services and considerably reduce the time to market. Now, what does that mean? This means it will accelerate the digital transformation for the companies. But more importantly, APIs are setting now new benchmarks and creating simple and yet very powerful ways for our businesses to streamline how they engage with their partners, right? And together, the company and their partners together, how they are delivering new generation of responsive application, and which can provide then their customers more services and options, right? I mean, I'll give an example here. I mean, very simple example. So how SAP collaborated, let's say, with Uber Freight, right? So at Uber Freight, we were able to connect shippers to the Uber logistics network, provide transportation inventory, and provide real-time pricing, quotation, contract right within the SAP system to give a seamless booking experience to the buyer, right? So we got both SAP and Uber Freight and that the various transportation providers really came together and provided this responsive application to each of our SAP users so that they have a very, very seamless booking experience. So besides the advantage and the experience, it also helped reducing the kind of emissions by few million tons, right? So if I were to summarize now with an API first approach, we clearly see few benefits realized by our customers, right? There is definitely an improved business partner and developer efficiency. Now you're able to real time sense and respond to business events, right? I think the example I gave, this will allow you to do a very agile decision making. Now, with the API first approach, you have a very secure and integrated ecosystem. Now, how does it help? It, of course, cuts down your time to the market, right? And conventionally, where without this, where customer used to really heavily customize their core applications, now they can keep all that outside to really avoid making a very, very complex monolith, right? So this is few of the benefits which we see are possible now with our customers with an API first approach, right? Now,
That is, yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
But I was just saying that that is one platform that companies should keep an eye out for. That's one good opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And now coming to your question, right? So impact on the role of the IT itself, right? So the role of the IT will move now beyond managing point-to-point manual complex process, data or application integration to a really more simple, automated, intelligent, event-driven, if I can call integration framework, right? So what does that mean, right? Any IT organization now will be able to securely play and plug services. They will be able to upgrade with a lesser time, which means they are able to now innovate faster, right? And more importantly, I think in the current world where talent is a shortage, right, in the digital world, I think personal activities now can now be directed to more value-added activities. So now you're able to use your talent really effectively. And if I have to really summarize, right, it really open up new frontiers for both businesses and the ITs to explore how to monetize their existing data and provide some experience, right? I mean, a best-in-class customer experience, which is what we started off this conversation with Diksha.
Yeah. Great points, Mukesh. Just coming upon our final question to close this discussion, Mukesh, is what are the checkpoints for organizations who want to move to the cloud or at least accelerate their adoption, but face various challenges, like it could be technical challenges, economical challenges, or even cultural and talent. That's the most important challenge that everybody is facing. So how can these checkpoints help them start or even boost the transformation with the end objectives in mind?
Yeah, so Diksha, you clearly mentioned, right? Very important is the end objective, right? So what's the business outcomes we are driving? So we companies, in my opinions, have to move away from deploying cloud tools and services for specific functional areas on improvement, but should take a more holistic approach for an enterprise-wide cloud strategy, right? And that's where what you just mentioned, it's very important, the end objective. So if I were to really summarize this this whole question, I would say the what, the why, what, and how have to be answered when you are looking at this transformation, right? Now, let me start off with the why, right? So the first checkpoints, right? First checkpoint should be on why cloud, right? It's not about joining the bandwagon after all that everyone is moving to cloud, so you should also move it to the cloud, right? That's not the case. Rather, we need to look at with the initiative, what are the business outcomes we are trying to drive, right? We should have a clear view on the intended business outcomes through the initiative, right? Now, once we have that, we clearly need to have a business case with the right justification and rationale, which will help us crystallize what are the business outcomes. And another checkpoints in the why phase clearly is that why now, right? This will help us what are the real more pressing needs versus more nice to have, which also help us really prioritizing the things. Now, this why phase is very crucial, Diksha, because this helps us uh, buying the sponsorship from the senior management of the organization, right? Once we have achieved this, I think clearly, I mean, that's the next step is that what, right? So what needs to change when we are looking at this? What is the impact on people, culture, organization aspects need to be assessed. And most importantly, according to me, we need to clearly assess the magnitude of the change across the organization again, right? This magnitude again will help us in prioritizing certain things over the others. Again, keeping that end goal in the mind, which you just mentioned on that. And finally, coming to, I think, the how part, right? I mean, most important, you can have the best of the strategy, best of the plan, but if you don't execute it well, I think you don't get the outcomes you have thought about, right? So in the how part, we clearly see that we have to clearly articulate the part, having the right execution plan with necessary talent, skills, investment required, have a very work stream based approach with necessary teams who can manage this transformation. We need to leverage tools supporting infrastructure, right? And also important is really assess the impact on areas like privacy, security, compliance, and the regulatory needs, right? So how will all about having a very detailed plan with clear milestones so that you are able to measure the progress, whether you are moving in the right directions or not, right? So if I were to summarize, I talked about why, what, and how, right? If I were to summarize, the most important aspect is to define the outcome first, the end objective. What is that we are looking at, and work out the plan. We have seen many times company miss this point. They start the journey, and when it really becomes unmanageable, they kind of don't get the kind of support they need from the executives, support they need from the organization, and possibly then the journey becomes slightly more challenging, and possibly the outcomes are not what possibly you had expected to derive, right? And that would be my view, Diksha.
Basically, I think what I keep hearing throughout the discussion that we had, Mukesh, is that cloud is just a way of or an opportunity to reimagine your business and deliver services in a new and better and more efficient way, faster, right, with more features probably, and look at it from a long-term perspective, at an overall organizational perspective, keeping in mind what difference or impact is going to have on the customer, and then work backwards. And while you're planning your cloud journey, you make sure that you take care of security at every stage, every possible security, and focus on having the best of talents.
Absolutely.
And also have system that will help you leverage your data in the best possible way. Would that be one fairly short summarization of a conversation?
I think you have summarized much better than what possibly I spoke of. So thank you for that. But yeah, you're really covered. I mean, essentially, it's all about driving that business outcomes, right? I mean,
right.
this cloud is a way to do it much faster, predictable, and possibly leverage the best in class what is available is the latest, right? And you are kind of modular and always ready for future, right?
Yeah, future.
It helps you doing that on that. But yeah, you surprised it very well.
Thank you, Mukesh. So that's about it for this session. So Mukesh, thank you very much for your time.
Like,
and lots of good insights, good learnings, and good examples. Those are some very good examples. So I'm sure a lot of takeaways for people. So I wanted to thank you for your time.
thank you so much.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
my pleasure. Really appreciate
Same
it.
here. We'll keep in touch.